Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Movie Chatter. I'm Eric, this is Lou, and unfortunately, we do not have Robin with us tonight for two reasons. One, I think she's really tired, had a rough day, had a rough week.
Yep.
We all have that happen sometimes. And then, therefore, number two, she didn't get a chance to watch the movie yet.
Yeah, well, we did kind of switch midstream on her too. So
We did. We had some confusion, which is probably my fault, about are we doing the other movie we were going to cover, or were we switching over to the Suicide Squad because it's the new movie, the big release,
shiny,
and it's shiny, and a lot of people seem to like it. Like, we thought we would get to it when we get to it, but no, this is like the talk of the town right now. So we figured we'd probably better cover it sooner rather than later. So that's what we're going to do. So it's just me and Lou tonight. I guess, you know, the voice of reason has taken the night off, but
yeah, we left for our own devices. We may be a train wreck here, so who knows?
Yeah. All right. So if you haven't heard, Suicide Squad came out this past weekend?
Yeah, I think it was released in theaters on Thursday and then on HBO Max on Friday.
Yeah, this is Tuesday. Yeah, so this past weekend. So again, same day and date release in the theaters, HBO Max. If you have the ad-supported version of HBO Max, you don't get the premium movies though. So you've got to have the full $15 a month subscription to get this. The early press reviews, once the embargo was lifted, had it at a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. And then after the movie was released and more critics who didn't get access to the screeners were able to chime in, the movies typically drop. Like if it's really, really high at first, it'll normalize and it'll drop. And sometimes if it's really, really low, it'll normalize and go up a little bit. So with a 98%, we knew it was going to drop. You know, I was guessing probably into like the low to mid 80s. 92 last I checked. Which, for a comic book movie, for a non-Marvel comic book movie with non-headlining Marvel characters like Iron Man and Spider-Man and Captain America, pretty darn good. In fact, when you've got a movie with characters like Polka Dot Man and I forget what the comic book name for Nathan Fillion's character was, but it's like the detachable arm kid or something. Like it's like really, really lame. When you are scraping the bottom of the barrel for character ideas and you get a 92 to 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, you're doing something right.
Yeah, you know, so I just looked up here while you were talking. It's down to 91, so it did drop another whole point.
Oh, well, yeah, now it sucks.
But the audience score is lower, actually. Usually it's the other way around. The audience score is only 84%.
That surprises me.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that.
Especially considering the first one, I think, lowered people's expectations so much.
Yeah, you know, I was kind of wondering in watching this movie and seeing the reviews and seeing the discussions online, I'm kind of wondering if there's blowback against the first one in rating this one higher than it would be because they were so upset with the first movie. Kind of like how everybody fawned over the Snyder cut of
Justice League.
Yeah. Because they hated the first one, hated what was happened to it, and then they're let's prop this up really well to make that one look even worse. I don't know. I get cynical like that sometimes when I think about how people are rating things.
But you know what? There really is a metagame to movies. People will go in and, like, if they're protesting something, I mean, look at the Star Wars sequels. They weren't that great in the first place, but even before they were released, people went in and started giving them bad reviews in advance to drive the numbers down.
Right.
And then there is also kind of, you know, balancing expectations and kind of a psychological, sociological game, I guess, that happens with these sorts of things. So, yeah, I mean, you do have to have a little bit of awareness of that sort of thing, I think. So we're going to break down what we thought of the movie. We are going to get to spoilers. So hopefully you've seen it, but we're not going to get to spoilers yet. We will let you know before we get to the spoilers. We'll give you a little bit of a warning, so you can hang in there for now. And we are going to compare it a little bit to the first one. This is kind of a sequel. So, I mean, it's a fully independent movie. You don't have to have seen the first one, but it takes place in the same universe, same characters, same actors, etc. You know, it's fair to compare it to the first one, I think. So we're going to do a little bit of that as well. And so, Lou, I think that maybe I liked the movie a little bit better than you did. So I'm going to go first and get all the gushing, oh, this is like the most awesome thing in the history of awesome things ever. And then we'll let you talk some sense into me and bring me back down to planet Earth here.
Yeah, knock yourself out. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I like this. I will say this may be my favorite non-animated DC movie. I liked Justice League. I liked a lot of the DC movies. I was not as hard on them as a lot of people were. I think they've gotten a bad rap. I agree they're typically not as good as the Marvel movies, but there are also some crappy Marvel movies too. I mean, I'll go to bat on that one as well. Mm-hmm. But I think this one was good. The pacing was good. The story was interesting. We saw things we don't typically see. The humor was great.
Yeah.
The characters were interesting. Like you would expect, especially when you know most of the characters are going to die because, you know, it's Suicide Squad. That's kind of the whole shtick, right?
Yeah.
They had depth to them. They had personality. They had some development. They had some backstory. It worked. Like, to me, almost every level of this movie worked. I know some people thought some things near the end were a little bit goofy, but to me, I guess I kind of felt it kept with the tone of everything being so over the top. And like, yeah, it was a little bit ridiculous, but it still worked with the story and it didn't break anything about the story. And if you look at the DC universe overall, there's some like really dorky things in the DC universe.
Yeah.
They've got some really good stories. The character design's not great. It's like the opposite of Marvel, where Marvel's got great characters. And then from time to time, some of the stories are just like, ugh, you know, a teenager could have written this as a high school project. Whereas DC, you know, they've got really good stories and really good writers, but you know, half the characters were designed back in the 50s and 60s almost as jokes. And
there definitely is much more of a feel to DC that is much more over the top comic bookish stuff.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's fine. That's fine. I mean, I did almost have to draw the line at the whole detachable guy thing.
It was funny.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was hilarious.
I got that part of the
Tom in the chat room. Having James Gunn directing certainly was a help. We're definitely going to cover that aspect of it too. You're right, Tom. But you didn't like detachable arm?
I went, what? Oh my God. What is going on? What do I even see? This is ridiculous. And you know, and they're just slapping the guy.
I know. Like, I knew it was coming. Like I knew, like, because I'd read the stuff in advance. I watched some YouTube videos and stuff, so I knew what character he was going to be.
You should have warned me.
But I didn't know it was going to be that lame. The fact that it was so lame was the best part, though.
So, okay, well,
we do have to kind of spoil the opening. Of the movie.
I can't really say anything about this without spoiling what's going on.
You know what? No, hold up. We'll come back to this.
Okay.
Let's go ahead and get our initial thoughts. So I loved it. Yeah. It was gratuitously violent. It really was. So there's that. Definitely not for kids. Probably not for some adults. And it was not perfect. There were some story things that could have gone a little better, but for the most part, I really think this is, if not the best DC movie, it's definitely up there near the top. I would watch it. I look forward to getting to watch it again. And I would recommend it. I think anybody who has been wanting to like the DC movies more and feel like you haven't been able to, I think this is the one for you. Lou, though, I get the feeling you weren't as enamored with it as I am.
No, I'm not as enamored with this movie as you are, but I really did enjoy it. I thought it was a good movie. You know, well put together. And I haven't really disliked all the other DC stuff. I mean,
Right.
They got a bad rap. I'm not sure why, because I give them a lot of passes and some stuff because, it is fanciful. It's not going to be true to life. It's there's stuff that you got to kind of take with a grain of salt. And yeah, some of the storylines were bad and some of the writing was poor, but overall, I still enjoyed going to those movies. I didn't really come out of there going, I just wasted $15 there. It was enjoyable for me. This one here, seeing it on HBO Max, I feel like I got my money's worth out of it because I'm paying for HBO Max. It was good.
Yeah, it's easy when you're also getting a lot of other things too.
Exactly. But aside from a few things like the detachable arm guy, and I didn't really care for the big bad guy at the end. I was like, okay, this is a little over the top and weird, but okay, sure, I'll go with it. So you kind of had to go with it. And that's kind of back to that whole thing of the stuff in DC is a bit over the top as far as what they do storyline wise and not being something realistic. And I do like the DC stuff like, Batman, because that is more grounded in reality, if you will. But yeah, you take that for a grain of salt and you look at this, and the comedy carried this movie a lot.
Oh, definitely.
There's a lot of really great parts in here. You're like, oh, okay, that was good. That was really funny. I thought we had some good character development for the characters that we got to see more than a few minutes of. More on that later. But I felt like I really cared about some of the characters as they grew and came along with the squad and did their stuff. What else can I say about this? It was really good. I think overall it was shocking and it was unexpected at times, but never in a bad way.
Okay. I think that's a pretty fair review. So, I'm trying to think if we should compare it to the first one first, or if we should get right into spoilers.
Let's talk about the first one.
What did you think of the first one? So let's compare your feelings on this one versus the original one.
The first one didn't have as much silly stuff in it as this did. So in terms of that, I think I liked it better. It's been a while since I saw the first one. I only saw it the one time. So, I don't have it memorized. So I can't really say how much worse the ending was than, what I remember, because I don't remember it all that well.
I can.
Okay.
I look forward to it.
But overall, I liked the characters in the first one. I liked the actors. I thought they did a good job. It was more realistic. So I'll say I liked it better for that aspect.
Okay. So looking at the characters in the first one, Viola Davis played Amanda Waller in both movies. We had Margot Robbie played Harley Quinn in both movies. And I'm looking at IMDb here because I know somewhere in this list is Captain Boomerang. And I tell you what, IMDb, if you're listening, and I know you're not, you need to get your act together with your website. This is like so much worse than it used to be.
Don't like change, yes.
It's not that I don't like change. It's that it's like trying to be all... I don't know. It's trying to go with this layout that's visually appealing, but so much less practical. And if it's a reference type website, you need to have both. It's trying to
be pretty. It doesn't need to be pretty, right?
Right. Anyhow, so Boomerang, Jai Courtney. Don't know why I missed that. Yeah, so it's, the actors were really good. So Will Smith played Deadshot, who was arguably the lead character in that movie. And I thought that the first one, directed by David Ayer, was really good for the first act. It was really good for the second act. The third act, I thought was horrible. I thought the ending was just stupid. Like stupid. I thought they wrote themselves into a box and then didn't know how to get out. So they said, well, we'll just burn the box.
Yeah, I really need to get back and watch this again.
I don't know that you do. Well, if you do, stop partway through.
Well, we talked about this on Random Chatter a few weeks back. There was an article from David Ayer about him wanting to get his version of this movie released.
Yeah. So what we saw was a result of a lot of meddling from Warner Brothers because Man of Steel came out, and then after that we had Batman versus Superman, and I think they were expecting Batman v Superman to be really good. And again, you and I thought it was okay, but there were a lot of issues with it, and a lot of people hated it. And Warner Brothers kind of started to panic. And I think there was some other movie they did that people also had a similar reaction to. While in the meantime, the Marvel movies, I forget what came out like right at that time period, but they were just making bank. And Warner Brothers panicked. And so they went and got involved with Suicide Squad and said, no, we're going to do that. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. And David Ayer's like, why? Why would you do those things? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And they said,
I mean,
no, we're doing it.
Including down to changing the score and everything else. And he's like, release my version. It doesn't have to be reshot or anything. It's already ready to go. Yeah,
that's the thing. I mean, if they can do Zack Snyder's Justice League cut and spend how much extra money, like $80 million or something to get that?
Yeah.
And this one's done. Like you download the final print to the servers and you release it. Like it's completed. It's mixed. It's edited. It's done. So I hope that we get to see that. And I hope that it fixes the problems I have with the movie, because as it stands right now, I like 2/3 of it, and the last third is completely disposable. It's frankly, I think the ending's awful to what otherwise would have been a good movie. Now, to your point, the humor was not as good. And that's one of the strong points about this one. And that's directly a result of James Gunn. So James Gunn did Guardians of the Galaxy and Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Yep.
And so he got hired on to do this, and just, I have so many good things to say about that change of direction. And you can see the direction he went in. It was not like Guardians of the Galaxy in the sense that this was obviously a lot darker, but the humor was there. Right. Character development and the interactions with the characters was there.
Yeah.
And there were also a lot of moments, like at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy, a lot of people are talking about this online. You get the scene where Drax kind of like pets Rocket Raccoon on the head to kind of comfort him at the end of the movie after Groot seemingly dies. And then in this tiny, tiny little spoiler, don't run away yet because this is inconsequential. At the end of the movie, Idris Elba's character, come on, IMDb.
Bloodsport.
This is like the worst. Bloodsport. I'm so angry with their website right now. I shouldn't get this angry about a website. I don't get angry very often, but this is like just ridiculous. I mean, come on. All right. So Bloodsport at the end, like he has a thing about rats, and I think Ratcatcher is the character's name. There's one whose superpower, so to speak, is that she can control large swarms of rats, which like really creeps him out. So at the end, he pets one of the rats. So there's like a lot of nods and throwbacks like that. A lot of Easter eggs and stuff in the background too. If you're a DC fan, his brother, who played one of the Reavers in Guardians of the Galaxy, and I think he did the motion capture for Rocket, is in this movie. He makes a cameo as well. He plays Weasel in this movie, does the motion capture for that, but then he also in the prison plays Calendar Man. Again, another stupid DC. His superpower, I guess, is that he commits crimes on important calendar dates.
Oh, that's an amazing power.
That's his part. Like, I guess Arbor Day, he burns trees. Or like, I don't know, Grandparents' Day, he beats up his grandmother. Like whatever it is, it's all calendar related, and it's just dumb. But I thought this one was really, really good. So let's go over the cast a little bit for this one. Margot Robbie is Harley Quinn again, and Idris Elba as Bloodsport, who I think really strong lead, really good character. You'd agree? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay. John Cena is Peacemaker. I hated this character, but I think that was the point.
Yeah, you're not supposed to be warm and fuzzy with him.
Right. So they succeeded. So I'm happy that they succeeded, even though I didn't like the character. And he is getting a spin-off series, by the way, that's going to be on HBO Max.
Oh, really?
Yep. We had
okay. I'm not sure
Joel.
I want to see a whole series with him, but okay.
I don't know. Like, I mean, again, it's one of those. It's a train wreck waiting to happen. Not because it won't be a good series, but because the character is a train wreck, and it's just kind of fun to watch that whole thing.
I mean, you could do a lot with the guy because he's kind of principled, but in a very flawed way. You could do a lot with that and have fun with it.
Yeah, that's the thing. I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for a protagonist. I don't want to call him a hero, a protagonist in a series that normally you couldn't get away with. It's almost like a Deadpool who has no sense of humor. So I don't know. I'm curious. I'd like to see what they do with it. Joel Kinnaman returns as Colonel Rick Flag, so he's kind of like the normal guy of the group. He's the
he's like the military, babysitter.
Yeah. And they've all got the little explosives at the base of their skulls. So like if they're not obeying, he calls up Waller and she hits the button and squish. Nathan Fillion as TDK, the detachable arm kid, I think.
Yeah, the detachable kid.
Michael Rooker, who was also in Guardians of the Galaxy and Walking Dead and a few other things. He plays Savant. Jai Courtney returns as Captain Boomerang. Mei Ling Nig as Mongal, the daughter of Mongol, who I think is a Superman villain. Pete Davidson from SNL as Blackguard. Yep. Sean Gunn as Weasel, et cetera, et cetera. So very full cast. We should probably get into spoilers at this point.
Sure.
We got to start with the opening of the movie. I got to tell you, they nailed the opening. That was a great opening.
Going into this, I have no knowledge of what's going on.
None of these guys.
I didn't do any research. I didn't know any storyline for this movie, and I had no idea any characters because I didn't read DC comics as a kid. Didn't read very much Marvel stuff as a kid either. So I know some of the high level stuff, but when you get into stuff like, Polka Dot Man, I'm like, who? What? What is going on here?
I didn't know Polka Dot Man before this movie. I learned about him because Kevin Smith, when he got like behind the scenes tours and stuff, he got on his Twitter and he's like, "Oh my God, you guys are going to believe this Polka Dot Man's in the movie." I'm like, who?
Who? What?
So I had to go look it up.
So the opening was pretty cool. We had a big, so now I'm like, okay, we're getting build up to the new characters. It's the new team.
Yep.
Okay, I'm all in. Let me see what's going on. I'm like, okay, so we have Michael Rooker. He's doing his whole. He's a pretty badass,
And he's kind of the point of view for all of this. Like, he's the character you're following through the introduction, like getting out of the prison, getting sent on the mission, being introduced to the other characters. And then in the battle, when they hit the beachfront, he's the guy whose point of view you're following through the battle. And good choice.
Yeah, because it worked well. It led me on a path they wanted me to go on until all hell breaks loose on the beach. And
he's a good character too. Like, he's kind of if you know Bullseye from the Marvel universe, like he can turn anything into a weapon and he can throw stuff with like deadly accuracy. He's one of those like super marksman type characters. So he actually has some legitimate credibility.
And then you hit the beach.
Yeah. So opening squad. So you've got Colonel Flag, the babysitter.
Yep.
You've got Harley Quinn, shows up late on the helicopter because, she had to go number 2.
And that was great. Yep, that was a fun scene. Yep.
Pete Davidson's character, which was Blackguard.
Blackguard, yep. And I loved him in, like, when they're doing the opening sequence where they're going, he's got the gun in a holster and he's pretending to grab it, and the other guard's like, no, not yet. Don't touch the gun. Don't touch the gun.
You're still in the prison. He's like,
Yeah, it was fun. And that kind of thing made the movie enjoyable. I was really getting into the characters.
Yep. You had Flula Borg as Javelin, who has a big javelin.
Right.
Listen, people. The 1960s in the Batman comics, that was a rough time. That was a rough period. they came up with like a new villain every week, and it showed. And they did not work very hard on coming up with the new villains. And the DC Rogues Gallery, it's a little rough. So yeah, Javelin, TDK, Nathan Fillion, he was in that initial group. Yep. We mentioned Savant already, Michael Rooker, and then Weasel. And the conversation about, is he a dog? Is he a werewolf? That whole thing.
Yeah. He's a werewolf. You put me next to a werewolf.
Yeah. Yeah. That was great. So they hit the beach. Oh, and Mongal was also there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
So they hit the beach and they start attacking, and things mostly go okay until Mongal, who's like this alien, almost like an Amazon warrior sort of thing, she runs up and leaps into the air and grabs the railing of the helicopter. And I love this because if you know more about piloting than I do, but I've talked to people who've flown helicopters, and my understanding is they're a little more fragile than they look sometimes. And like, if you've got a lot of weight, like, I don't know how heavy this character is, but she's like one of these super strong Hulk type characters. So she's hanging on the side of this helicopter, which is bringing it down, which makes it completely lose control. I mean, it's low to the ground anyway. And it just starts like chopping through the trees and everybody on the ground. And like, that's where things just go to crap.
Well, right before that though, wasn't that when, and I think it was Pete Davidson's character Blackguard, wasn't he the one that says, okay, hey, I'm here.
Oh, yeah.
So he totally sells out the team to what country? Porto Maltese or
Cordo
Maltese, wherever we were. He's like, yep, I got him here. We're good.
They're right back there. I'm the guy that called you.
My job. Yeah. So that was good. Realizes that, this is gonna be bad. He sold us out, and then all hell breaks loose.
We skipped. They jump out of the helicopter in the water. Nobody told the bosses back at the office that Weasel can't swim.
Yeah, that was good.
Boom, right out of the gate, Weasel dead. Yeah. And it goes on from there. It was so great. And TDK, his arms pop off and they just and I'm thinking, okay, he's going to like grab him and start beating people over the head with him or something. Then I thought, well, he doesn't have arms to beat them with. So how is this even going to work? So they float at walking speed.
Really slow speed.
Float through the air, and then they get up to these four bad guys, these four soldiers with guns, and they just kind of like start smacking the guys,
bitch slapping them.
But so weakly.
Yeah.
That it's almost like he's just kind of bumping into their faces accidentally.
What are you doing? What is this?
Yeah, the soldiers are just like, what?
They're more confused than anything else.
Joke? Yeah. It was great. That's the thing. The humor in this was just so spot on, and it made everything great. Anyway,
that was a bit wrong for me. So go ahead.
Okay. And I get it because it's ridiculous. But the whole point of this is that they're the distraction while the real team is further up the beach going in and infiltrating.
Right.
So these are the disposable ones.
Yeah. But what worked out really well for this opening sequence was, without knowing anything about what's going on, and I don't know if you knew that was going to happen in this first sequence or not.
Did not.
I didn't.
No.
I'm getting really invested. I'm like, okay, I don't really care for the look of Savant, but he seems like a pretty cool character. I can get behind this. I'll go ahead with the team. And I'm like, wait, everybody's, what happened here? Everybody's dead.
Yeah.
Except for Harley Quinn.
Everybody except Harley Quinn and Flag.
Right. Flag, yeah.
So good though. Like, that's the thing. This movie catches you off guard time after time after time. And I want that. I've seen so many predictable movies. I'm tired of it.
Yeah. And that did make it a lot more fun for me being not predictable.
Right.
Because I like you say, I enjoy that too. I don't want to be, okay, yeah, this is going to happen next. And that's what's going to happen next time.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's so refreshing when we get something that we haven't seen before and that isn't predictable. All the way to the end, really. Mm-hmm. Like, how are they going to kill the big thing at the end? Like, you don't know up until the point where they do it. The
one thing that was kind of telegraphed for me was the next scene after that. So now that they've gone back in time 3 days, I think it was, where they kind of show the recruiting of the real team we're going to have doing this stuff, really doing the objective.
By the way, I just want to point out, I'm sorry, we're going to spoil the hell out of this thing.
Yeah.
Like, this is one of those where we're going to avoid stuff. Like, if you haven't seen it, you really need to duck out now, because we're going to spoil every single thing along the way, because this is just, it's too good not to geek out about these moments, but you need to see them the first time for yourself.
Yeah. And FitMax just mentioned what I'm going to talk about here too, where, Team 2 is attacking the compound where Flag is being held because they feel he's been captured. So, like, okay, we'll get him out. And this is the kind of thing this is the one thing that was predictable for me, because I'm like, why aren't these guys in uniform? Everybody else is in uniform that they've been attacking, and they're just attacking like, it looks like random villagers almost. It's like, this isn't really.
Well, that was like their base camp. That was like their downtime. They had weapons and like lookout towers and things like that.
But looked like they were, even the ones that were on guard, suppose they weren't in uniform. So I'm like, there's something wrong with this. I didn't call it, but I kind of knew something was up.
I definitely didn't call it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I didn't call it, but I knew something was definitely wrong with this. And then you kind of find out that, Flag is in there with the head of the resistance, but playing cards, I guess, or something like that, or having a meal at least, and
negotiating the help of all of the people that are now dead.
Like, why didn't my guards alert me? I don't know. I didn't see anybody out there. No.
Right.
Meanwhile, they killed the entire.
Because they reminded me of my mother, and I killed them all. That was so great.
So that attack was pretty good. I mean, that was pretty epic. The battles were good. It was almost like it was one-upsmanship between the guys, between Peacemaker and
Bloodsport.
Bloodsport. Yep. And I was like, okay, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing this instead. Yeah, it was good. It was fun in a bloody sort of way. And
in the meantime, and I want to talk a little bit about the group dynamic too, because what's interesting is you've got those two, and they're obviously kind of like trying to out alpha the other one. And then you're like, well, what do the other three do? And the rat catcher, actually the daughter of the original rat catcher,
Ratcatcher 2,
was a really interesting character throughout this whole movie. Polka Dot Man, believe it or not, interesting character throughout the whole movie. And you get to see what they do and how they could actually be useful in this group. And then you think, wow, they're really useful in this group. Like, there are all different kinds of things you could do with this. And then, of course, King Shark, who, by the way, one of the very, very, very few characters that I knew anything about, primarily through Batman comics. And then he's been on like the Flash TV show. He's some video games. He's been around for a while. Like, other than Harley Quinn, I think he's the only one really that I know anything about. So it was nice to see him, played by Sylvester Stallone, by the way.
Yeah, he did the voice. Yep.
Yeah. And it's great how they made him just like completely brainless.
Yeah.
Like,
I could have a mustache.
Right. As a disguise.
I want to disguise myself. I can blend in.
They're doing the briefing. Any questions? Hand. Yes, that's a hand. It just, but even him, there was development all the way through. You learn about, how he eats everybody and he has no friends and he's trying to connect with other people, and they actually do something with it. And and that's great. Like, without losing track of the overall story arc for the movie itself. That's tricky to blend in development for all those characters while still moving the movie along. They did interesting things with Harley. They kind of did some interesting things with Flag, though it was less really about him. That was another one of those situations where it's like kind of who can out alpha each other, which was funny though. Like, they made that a thing. So, but yeah, so the opening sequence, hilarious, completely unexpected. The militia camp, hilarious at the end of it. Like, you watch it, and that was the one point in the movie where I'm almost like, okay, whatever. Yeah, they're going slaughtering people, and oh, we're so tough, and blah, blah, blah. But then the reveal made it worth it.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, wow, I need to go back and rewatch that now, because it's going to be so much better the second time now that I know what's actually going on. And I retroactively loved that scene. We go on to the whole romantic interlude with Harley. Boring as hell. until you get to the reveal. And then you're like, wow, okay, yeah, nope, that was worth it too. And then the whole rescue and kind of getting to see what's going on in her head as she's escaping, and the battle scenes and stuff. And like all of these different ways they presented things. I didn't get bored with any of the action scenes. I didn't get bored with the story. Right all the way up until the end. And then Tim, I hope he's not listening to this. He hasn't seen it yet, but he's a big kaiju fan. So I want to know what he thinks of the Starro thing. The Starro thing was probably the most divisive thing in the movie. People either loved it or hated it.
So, and I understand from doing the research after the fact that Starro is a, character in the comics.
Yeah.
But I'm like, really? It's like, it didn't seem like it fit with this story. It was so, I mean, there was a lot of things that were over the top in this movie, but it was just like, okay, it's a big starfish with a creepy eye in the middle of it. It's like, okay. I had a hard time getting into that. I mean, I like the concept of it taking over people and, that kind of thing, because it's Starro the Conqueror.
Right.
But
he's related to Kang.
Oh. But I'm like, okay. It worked in the movie, I guess, but I thought they could have done a better villain somehow.
I think it worked because, number one, the mind control thing works really well, because you don't just want to slaughter all the bad guys because those are real humans, right? You don't want to kill them. And second, you don't get the Lex Luthor thing where, haha, I've outsmarted you yet again, and here's a 20-minute piece of exposition about how I did it and how the whole movie, everything you watched where you guys succeeded, like it was actually me all along, and blah, blah, blah. And then it makes the heroes look stupid. And then the heroes have to look not stupid in order to beat the bad guy, which then makes the bad guy look stupid, which means he wasn't actually that formidable a bad guy in the first place. Like we see that trope over and over again. And back to what I said earlier on, we don't see superheroes fighting basically big space alien kaiju. And yes, it was weird and unexpected. And I was still kind of like, the whole time I'm like, it's like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man meets like a bad beach vacation. Like it's still kind of like, I don't know. But because it worked so well with what was going on, like it was a good fit for the movie, I thought. Even if it wasn't a good fit for like what I would normally expect from a superhero movie, I think it worked because you couldn't negotiate with it. You couldn't reason with it. And you didn't want to just slaughter everybody around you. And if you don't, and you don't find a way to kill it, and how the heck do you kill that thing? Then you also get possessed. And so it actually was a formidable villain. Like it worked because it's like when you get up to the very end of the movie and you're in the last battle scene and you're like, how can they pull this off? How can they possibly make this work? That's good. That's good writing.
Yep.
If you can predict 17 different ways for them to defeat the bad guy, why watch the movie?
Yeah, right.
So I liked that. You know what the movie originally was going to be? This just came out a few days ago. It was going to be the Suicide Squad versus Superman.
Really?
Superman was going to be mind controlled. So there's a Suicide Squad video game coming out, and they did a teaser trailer for it back over the summer or the spring. I forget when it was. And it was a while back. And the teaser trailer has them at the very end of the trailer. You see that there's a mind controlled Superman, and that's who they were called in to kill. That's what James Gunn wanted to do with this movie. And Warner Brothers said, we're going to let you do almost anything you want. We don't want you doing the Superman thing. And I think it had maybe to do with the whole Justice League stuff or whatever. I don't know. But they said, we're going to give you free reign. But like that one thing, let's just maybe not do that.
Right.
And that's fair.
Yeah, I suppose.
But a good concept. Because the thing is, how do you then kill Superman?
Yeah, right. I mean, he's the most overpowered, character out there, really.
Well, and it's also a branding issue.
Yeah.
Right. So there's that side of it. Plus, you just killed him already in the other movies. So you can't just kill him again and bring him back to life again. So yeah, it didn't work, but conceptually that would have been awesome. I don't know. Starro, I'm okay with it. I get that some people aren't. You seem to be, on the fence at best.
Yeah, I mean, it worked in the movie, but I'm like, really, a starfish?
Yeah, I mean,
the only thing funny about
starfish.
The only thing good about that was the funny part where they're doing the briefing, and Peacemaker's going, all serious with his notepad and everything. Oh, so you know that a starfish is a term for it. I was like, okay, that's funny.
Yeah.
You think it has anything to do with it? No. Okay.
Completely serious. Like,
yeah.
Could that have something to do with it? No. He's right down. No. Got it. Yeah. The humor in this it made the movie. Trying to think of what else to talk about. I kind of just want to geek out about this. Honestly, this is one of those few times where I feel like there was actually a lot to unpack in the movie. There were some themes of what it means to have someone's back and what it means to be part of a team or like a pseudo family. But then there's also stuff about right and wrong. Like, what is the right thing to do? Do you defend your country, or when your country's doing something wrong, do you not? Mm-hmm. And then, but if revealing the truth is then going to destroy everything else about your country too, like how far is too far in that direction, and et cetera, et cetera. Like, I mean, they didn't get like super philosophical about it, but there were conflicts amongst the heroes. I'd say heroes with air quotes, that made the characters' actions a lot more interesting. And I think that also helped carry the movie, especially in the third act. So I don't know. I thought it was really, really good. So many different levels. And I just want to geek out about it. I don't even want to analyze it. I just I mean, I'll say this. It was one of the stronger performing movies from DC. I thought, on a lot of levels, the movie really, really worked well. Yeah. Do I want to see more like this? No, I don't think we have to do, I think that's one thing we find with anything that works well in a movie. Like, oh, let's do all these movies in the same vein of this. I'm like, right. No, we don't have to. It's like, we don't need to make the next Batman movie like this with humor and everything else. It won't work that way. It's not for that. I agree. But this worked really, really well, and I hope they have good luck now with the next movie they do for DC. I will say this. I liked Deadpool. I liked Deadpool 2. I know I'm going to like Deadpool 3. I want them to keep doing Deadpool. But like you said, I don't want the whole Marvel universe to be, well, let's do all of this stuff like Deadpool now. Yeah, well, that was one of the things that happened. When that came out and it did so well as an R-rated movie, they're like, oh, let's make all these movies R-rated. I'm like, no. True. But different. It doesn't have to be. Different kind of thing. So you're right. There were two sides of it. One was the meta part of it, and one was the character part of it. They didn't do it with the character and the silliness. They did do it with the meta side of filmmaking. Like, oh, we can still make bank doing R-rated movies, because traditionally you lose a lot of the teenagers with disposable income if you don't make it PG-13. Right. And so you're right. They really did take that and run with it. I guess I was referring more to the in-universe side of it. I don't want to see a lot of silly, corny, goofy movies like this, but I do want to see more of this one. Like, keep the Suicide Squad thing. Give us more throwaway, stupid, ridiculous characters, because DC has a ton of them. And I think it's about time to clean house. Right. But they don't need to do this treatment both in R-ratedness and or the way they're in the movie for another franchise within DC, or even take it on to another thing outside of DC. Right. It worked for this occasion. Right. We don't need to replicate that somewhere else. No. Something different. They need to keep it inside of this capsule. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'd like to see more of it, but I'd like to see more of it here. I don't want to see a Flash movie that's like this. I don't want to see an Aquaman movie that's like this.
Exactly. Yep.
But in Suicide Squad, like give it Suicide Squad 3 or The Suicide Squad 2 or another Suicide Squad or a Suicide Squad. Like however you're going to set up the title, give us more of that. Because this was good. Like legitimately, this is the first time I've seen a DC live action DC movie and have been all in and excited about it instead of, you know what, I really enjoyed it. It's sad that a lot of other people won't. And, but you know, at least I got to see people I like on the screen. This time I was excited and I can't wait to watch it again. I like that. I want more of that. It's how movies like this should be. And there were really touching moments too, like the flashback with Ratcatcher and her dad. Like there were moments in the film that had meaning like that too.
Character development,
it's all about the underdogs, and that one line was really the tone for the whole film, I think. So now I don't know anything about when we're gonna get another one of these. James Gunn is doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
He was removed from that at one point, wasn't he?
So Marvel, it's one of those situations where I guess a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, James Gunn, like a lot of other people, had said some stuff in social media that, I'll be honest, I don't even remember what it was, but I know that it's stuff that now is seen as inappropriate.
Something controversial now. Yeah.
Right. And apparently he apologized. Everybody who's worked with him emphatically stood up and said, listen, I can't speak for who he was back then, but I can speak for who he is today. And he's not that person. And so many people, person after person after person, actors, cast and crew members, like everybody stood up and said, no, this guy, again, I don't know what he was like when he was younger and made stupid mistakes and stuff, but today he's not that guy. He's this guy. And so Marvel, they were getting rid of him. I think they fired him. Like they said, okay, we're done. We're not bringing you back. And that's where DC stepped in, or Warner Brothers, and said, come in, pick whatever you want. And they said, I don't think they hired him on for Suicide Squad. I think they brought him in and said, what in the DC universe would you like to do? Pick something. And he wanted to do a Superman movie. But he also wanted to do Suicide Squad, and that's kind of how that whole idea came about. And then Marvel stepped back and said, okay, let's rethink this. But yeah, my understanding is he is doing Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Because I think he's been answering questions.
I thought he was out, and I'm like, he's back in. Okay, good. I'm glad he is, because he's a great filmmaker, and he did really well with the other one. So, yeah.
And I mean, I think people should be held accountable for stuff, but I also think that people do change throughout their lives. I'm not the same guy I was when I was like 20, not even close. I did some really stupid things when I'm 20 that I'm ashamed of now because I was 20 years old. I was an idiot.
Yeah, we all were. Yeah, and you can't judge yesterday's actions by today's standards.
Right.
There's
now,
you can't judge a movie from 30 years ago on today's standards. You can't judge people in their teens or 20s based on what they're doing now.
Now, if he were still that person.
Right.
And I don't know one way or the other. I only have what we all have, which is the word of the other people he's worked with. But if he were still that person and still continued that behavior through today, that's different. And if you look at other people who have had similar sorts of things, like Joss Whedon, and you've got everybody who works with him saying, I will never work with that man again.
Yeah, then
totally
you
different.
Believe it.
Yeah, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing, right? So, but yeah, so he is still doing Guardians of the Galaxy. And I don't know, I'm looking forward to that too. That's still, the first Guardians movie is still my favorite amongst the whole Marvel universe. I'm not saying it's the best one, but it's my personal favorite. So anyway, I think it's going to do it for this episode on the Suicide Squad. Anything else you want to throw in?
No, I think so. I mean, I think as far as recommendation or not, I would say, yeah, go watch it. This is a must see.
I would say that too. I'm a little behind in the chat room here. I apologize to everybody. I know David's been throwing stuff in. And yeah, the Javelin made it through the whole movie. So like we have the spirit of the Javelin there, I guess. Yeah, I love this. I can't wait to get more like this. And I can't wait to watch it again. I thought it was good. So if you haven't seen it and you listen to this episode, this is one of the only times you're going to hear me say this. Shame on you. You should have not listened to this episode if you haven't seen this movie, because it's really good. And I would recommend it to people. We're already well past that and have spoiled like the whole thing.
Yeah. If you got this far, you haven't seen it yet, still see it because it's worth seeing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm curious about the Peacemaker series, where they're going to go with it. If it's going to be any good, if they can maintain this tone, maybe, but James Gunn does this tone really well, and I don't know how well many other people can. So I don't know. I'm cautiously optimistic, but okay. I don't know. It could go either way. But so far, we're off to a good start with the character. So, all right, that's it. That's going to do it for this episode of Movie Chatter. We are not going to be around next week. I'm going to be out of town. And we're going to take the week off. After that, we are going to be doing The Woman in the Window. And this is not like Rear Window, like the Alfred Hitchcock thing. This is a new movie, came out this year on Netflix, starring Amy Adams. It is a psychological thriller, and it is quite good. When you watch it, keep in mind, it's got a little bit calmer a pace than something like what we were just discussing here. It's very much about getting into the psyche of this character. And so, you know, it's not like a lot of the other movies we've been covering recently. It's not very John Wick-like. It's not a thriller. It's a psychological thriller. So it's all about the stuff she's experiencing and what she's dealing with. But it's a really, really good movie. It's very recent. It's worth covering. So we're going to cover that next. Great. It's not going to be next week. It's going to be 2 weeks from today. So check that out. And you know what? In the meantime, this would be a great opportunity to go back and check out some of our previous episodes. We've got the vast majority of them on YouTube. So if you go to randomchatter.com/YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, hit the like button. Hit the notification button, the one that looks like a little bell, and you'll get notifications anytime we go live or post new episodes. And excuse me, check out some of our past episodes and some of the recommendations we've made. And you know, do a little bit of homework before the next episode and watch The Woman in the Window. Check out randomchatter.com as well. We've got a lot of other podcasts there, including DC Talk. I'm sure I'm a little bit behind on that one, but I'm sure Mike and Carrie are going to be talking about it. If they haven't already, they must have already.
I imagine, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I should ask them about that in our Discord server where we hang out. So go to randomchatter.com/escape hatch. That's the server where you can find us now. And there are some good discussions going on in there, too. There's one specifically for DC content. There's a spoilers channel for Suicide Squad. There's one there for all of the Random Chatter shows. Good place to hang out and converse about this stuff. Let us know what you think. You know, we want to hear your opinions, too. Did you like Suicide Squad? And if not, there's something wrong with you. I mean, you know, everybody has a right to their opinions, even the wrong ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. That's going to do it. Everybody have a great couple of weeks. Again, also, no live shows for Random Chatter and Force Chatter this coming weekend. There will be audio shows.
Yep.
Yeah. Audio shows, and they'll be posted afterwards. I got to see who's editing them. Lou, you or Tim. I don't know who's going to get suckered into that one.
We'll figure that out.
I'm on vacation. I'll be on the road the whole time. So
you will be. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys in a couple weeks. Take care.